Alright, welcome to another live presentation with facts and evidence. This, I believe, is number 6. I haven't done...
10:28. One notification.
I haven't done...
1%. Sunday, December. YouTube. Now. Red circle. Watch live now. Passcode field. 0 of 4 value. 1, 2, 3, 4.
I don't care if this iPhone's passcode leaks out.
GHI.
I don't have the iPad with me, so I'm having my iPhone 5 check this.
iPad with me, so I'm having my iPhone 5 check this. iPad with me, so I'm having my live chat. 0. Video player. Track position. Airplane. Selected. Selected. Live. Button. Next video. Pause. Button. Play.
Anyways, so I might.
Next video. Play. Button.
So, anyways, guys, today we're gonna talk about so this is, I believe, live presentation number 6. Correct me if I'm wrong though. But today we're gonna talk about, should iPhone 10 features be applied to older iPhones? Now, let me warn you guys, this is a very opinionative presentation. I have evidence I have physical kind of evidence to prove my opinion. I feel like I probably could get slammed for this. However, please do respect my opinion. If you guys disagree with me, I will respect all of I'll respect all of you. I don't expect the same respect from everybody. However, this is my opinion, and I would like it to be respected as much as possible. So, let's get started with this. So, we're gonna start with, so again, the topic of this presentation is, should iPhone 10 features be applied to newer iPhones on iOS 13? I should have specified on the title, but I'll change it. We already have one watching. Cool. Okay. So, let's start with, so Everything Apple Pro did a video on this a few days ago. About what are some features a wish list of features that he would like on iOS 13. Now, we're pretty far away from iOS 13 right now. If iOS 13 were to come out next September, that's when I start grade 12. Or sorry, if iOS 13 were to come out next school year, at least for me, because school years begin in September for where I live. For most of you that watch me, it's August. Anyways, so for if iOS 13 were to start next school year, there's still 9 months left. So, you know, I'm not going to say, to begin the stream, that it's wrong to do a wish list of iOS 13 features right now. I'm not saying it's wrong. What I will say, though, is there are features that obviously I don't approve of. One of them being that the iPhone 10 features should be applied to the older iPhones, just like they had done in the iPads in iOS 12. And so that disapproval has nothing to do with me not wanting the home button to go away. As much as I love the home button, and I've been using it for 3 years now, as much as I love the home button, I think it's time to move on. But reinforcing iPhone 10 features on an iPhone that's clearly not designed for that is not the right way to move on, is what I'm trying to say. Newer technology is coming out every day, and for me, adapting to those technology changes is very difficult, but you have to adapt to them. And it's getting really, really difficult right now. With the home button being gone, the headphone jack being gone. I mean, it's really getting it's not really getting that adaptable. However, I'm just slowly kind of adapting to that. Then the last phone that I may have with a home button is an iPhone 7. The last phone I'm having with the headphone jack is this iPhone, which is the one I'm recording with right now. So, what I'm trying to say is that, new technology should be coming out. Like, the home button should slowly kind of start to become obsolete. It already started to. But what I'm trying to say is that they shouldn't reinforce that obsolescence by putting it on older device, like putting iPhone 10 features on older devices. It just doesn't make sense. Because if you look at those, because if you have a device, if you look at, I've seen like the iPhone XS and the iPhone XS Max at an Apple store before, and oh my gosh, the XS Max is not as big compared to the XS, but knowing that there's not a home button on the bottom, it's just another layer of screen. It's a little overwhelming, but at the same time, it's worth it. But whenever I look at it, I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, wow, look at this camera on the back, like, how cool is that? What I'm trying to say is that I don't know much about the camera, on the iPhone X, XS, and Max. I don't know much about the camera. However, what I do know for sure is that you shouldn't put Face ID on a device. So one of the features that's on the iPhone, starting from the iPhone 10, is Face ID. What I'm trying to say is you shouldn't put Face ID, first of all, on a device that is clearly not designed for that. It just doesn't make sense. Like, why would you put a newer feature on an older device that it's not designed for? Whether the processor isn't designed for it, whether the structure isn't designed for it, it doesn't make sense in any case. Why would you do that on a device that's clearly not designed for it? It just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, I can't process that through my head. Why would you do that? Like, and then the iPhone 10 gestures thing, I feel like, if all the devices with home buttons are still to receive updates right now, well, the iPhone 5S drops updates, this is probably the 5S's last update. When iOS 12 is done, support's going to be done for that one. But what I'm trying to say is there's going to be a few other devices with home buttons that's going to run for a certain amount of time. So what I'm trying to say is that I think I feel like it all comes down to planned obsolescence and perceived obsolescence. You're trying to obsolete something. This is a good example of perceived obsolescence, because you're trying to obsolete something that is still perfectly useful. Like, just because new stuff comes out, you're trying to quickly obsolete an old home button that's still perfectly useful right now. Because you have other devices. When iOS 13 comes out, the earliest device that's gonna receive the update is the iPhone 6, which is the iPhone that I'm using to stream this. Sorry, I'm gonna read chats. Of course they would not add Face ID, but they can add other. Oh my gosh, am I having trouble scrolling now?
Speech on. Switch camera.
Jonoy, star of course. Jonoy, well, of course they would not add Face ID, but they can add other things to old devices. Jonoy, star of course. Switch camera, button.
Well, yeah,
Speech off.
you've got a point there. I think Apple should continue adding features to old devices. What I'm trying to say is that you shouldn't add features to an old device that it's not suited, that it's not designed for. And this is a good example of perceived obsolescence right here, because next year when iOS 13 comes out, the iPhone 6 is going to be the earliest device to receive it. That's still going to have a home button, and then there's going to be newer devices from the iPhone 6 to the iPhone 8 Plus. They're all going to have home buttons, and they're going to receive the iOS 13 update. Why would you want to obsolete something that is totally useful? I get the planned obsolescence part, where they want to make devices run down as fast as possible to have them receive, to have them upgrade. That was the case a year ago when Apple was blamed for slowing down people's iPhones. But the example that I'm trying to talk about, this is an example of perceived obsolescence. This isn't planned obsolescence. Now, I'm not saying Apple's going to do this. What I'm saying is, this isn't a good idea. And I think people should it's a little too early, but I think 6 months prior to the update, I feel like at any point, people should start thinking about wish lists of features for iOS 13. My wish list for update, I don't know if this is going to happen, but I would like a new lock sound, or a whole selection of lock sounds that you can choose from, and then a new charge tone. Apple hasn't done that because in iOS 10 they only changed the lock sound. They didn't change the hello Tech Taylor. Sorry. Why is my I don't get why my thing is being so slow. Anyways, so what I'm trying to say is that so a new selection of lock sounds would be nice, and then I would like a new charge tone. Because they haven't done that in 6 updates. And I think it's time for them to kind of change their sound scheme a little bit. So, new sounds. Maybe a couple new voices. I'm not sure. And I approve of some other features like Touch ID. Apple should stop working on that, obviously. What are some other features that I would like? I feel like I can't think of some other features that I would like off the top of my head, but I've just basically started creating my own wish list. But the fact that you put iPhone 10 gestures on an older iPhones just doesn't make any sense to me at this time. Because, they did that with the iPads this update, on iOS 12. Which I never really approved of, and I had no idea this would even be happening. But I never really approved of it. Not because I don't want the home button to go away, but because the older devices are clearly not designed for it, and there was still a pretty good use for a home button. I feel like as a company, they should have let the home button just slowly die out on its own when all the home button devices get obsolete. However, that's going to take a long time. Considering that, say, the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus, they're going to run up to iOS 18. they're gonna if I assume that they're gonna run up to iOS 18, like iOS 18 is 6 years from now. Right now we're in iOS 12. iOS 18 is going to be 6 more major updates from now. Which is basically to say that iOS 18 is going to happen in 2024. But if I predicted that the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus are going to run up to iOS 18, which is a little too far off to think about right now, but if we predicted that, we never know what's going to happen to future updates, but if we say we predicted that it's going to go up to iOS 18, that's 6 years from now. So I feel like Apple should just let the home button slowly die out on its own. However, the other side of me is saying, is this even a good idea? Because we have to wait 6 more years then. But, you know, people are going to upgrade to phones without home buttons anyway at that point. Like, you know what I mean? I'm just saying, isn't it too, at the other side of me, I'm just saying, isn't it too early to start now? Because we have again, I'm probably going to be slammed for a lot of this. And by slammed, I mean people are probably going to lash out at me for saying all these kinds of things. But again, this is my opinion. And as an Apple user and a customer, I have to address these kinds of things. And same thing as an iOS researcher, I have to address these kinds of things. So I'm trying to say that isn't it kind of too early? Agree. The gestures that are on the iPhone or higher is on the iPad. Certain iPads I have hard. Oh, hi, Austin. At least make the gestures an option if like the home button stops working or something. Well, they could do that. What I'm trying to say though is, isn't it a little too early? Because, like I said, how I mentioned the iPhone 8. Say that's gonna run up to iOS 18, which is 6 years from now. Isn't it a little too early? And again, you're forcing obsolescence on a thing that's perfectly useful. Like, and so like I was saying, changing the functionality of the camera app is on my wish list. Yeah. Yeah, the camera app should be a little updated, I think. I'm actually kind of sad that 3D Touch is gone, but honestly, I'm not familiar with 3D Touch. At least make the gestures an option. Yeah. Maybe that's a good idea. So, yeah, hi. So, I mean, Joe, that could be a good idea. You're absolutely right, actually. That could be a good idea. However, I don't know if that could even be a possibility. I feel like the thing I'm trying to get at is when Apple, here's the thing, when Apple did this to the iPads, I had a feeling they were going to do this to the iPhones. What I'm trying to say, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to stop that. I mean, maybe not stop it, like maybe not completely stop it, but I'm trying to kind of get my opinion out there and say, no, this cannot be happening right now. Not because I'm just someone who's used to old technology and just doesn't want the home button to go away. That's not my point. My point is that you're making something that's completely obsolete that's still perfectly useful. And you have devices that have home buttons right now. And you're making such a big deal out of it. Like, you're making such a big, I guess, deal out of it. And if we put that into context, I feel like the obsolescence is going down a little too fast right now. So I'm not trying to completely stop this. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to slow it down. And just trying to say, why don't we do this for a later update? Not iOS 13. I would say maybe 14 or 15, even 16. Because by then I'm going to be on another, it's not all about me. It's not all about me. I'm trying to say that couldn't we just at least slow things down a little bit? But again, Apple is a company, and for companies to make money and have a high demand, we need supply and demand for new devices. But this isn't planned obsolescence. This is perceived obsolescence, and I don't remember Apple ever doing perceived obsolescence in their products. I remember, again, Apple hasn't decided this yet, but people want different things on their wish list. And this is what I'm not wanting on my wish list, is that new iPhone 10 gestures should not be on older iPhones as of right now. That's not on my wish list right now. Honestly, I don't care if it's on someone else's wish list. They have their opinions. I have my own opinions as well. And I'm trying to get my thoughts out there to say that don't we need to kind of slow things down a little bit? Because this perceived obsolescence is going way too fast. You should get a job at Apple. You have a good point. You sound like you know what you're talking about. Yeah. I probably... You know what? Someone else has actually told me that before. They're like, you should... Because, I am kind of good at predicting... Like, do you guys remember last December, I made a stream about... well, not a stream, but I made a video... about how the software updates that Apple would drop their devices on. Well, on that video, I predicted that the iPhone 5S would go up to iOS 12, and I was correct. That means the iPhone 6 is going to go up to iOS 13. If iOS 12 goes really well. If iOS 13 goes really well. Sorry, that's what I mean. But even then, Apple's going to drop it on iOS 12 for the 5S, definitely. Because that device is 5 years old, and I think it's time to kind of just die out a little bit right now. After iOS 12, it should be done. But I predicted last year, when iOS 11 was even still pending, I predicted that the 5S was going to support iOS 12, and I was correct. So, you have a good point there. I've heard someone else has already told me, like, that, hey, you should get a job at Apple. And, maybe. That could be one of my dreams. getting a job at Apple. Who knows? Right now I'm kind of more towards music, but who knows? This could probably just be plan A. I might think of getting a job as at Apple's headquarters. Who knows? So, one thing I'm really good at, as someone who researches iOS, and I've only used iOS for like 3 years, is predicting things. Based on previous evidence, could I make future hypotheses? I should say, could I make future predictions about certain iOS features? And it's really all about right and wrong. That's why you make predictions. That's why you hypothesize. It's you never know what's going to happen. It's just you have to make predictions and be like, let's find out. And if your prediction is wrong, I mean, that's fine. Your predictions are guesses. And guesses are wrong. So, although I'm not really into making a wish list of iOS 13 stuff, I mean, I've already started one. But I'm more towards predictions based on, although I still wish for new features, I'm also making predictions, based on what's been going on in iOS 12, is the same thing going to happen to other devices in iOS 13? Would it be nice if Apple had a YouTube on the device when you got it again, like they did? Oh yeah. Yeah, I remember those times. I actually have an iPod Touch 3rd generation with a YouTube app that was pre-installed, which no longer works, by the way. But yeah, Apple used to do that. I don't know why they stopped doing that. I'm not sure. I'm honestly not sure about a built-in YouTube app. But I've heard, I wasn't on iOS at the time, but I've heard from a few older iOS users that YouTube has been on older devices before, but Apple stopped doing that. I'm not exactly sure why. I'm not sure when they stopped. Is it iOS? I'm not sure when they stopped, but yeah, I remember. They should make a new iPod Touch. iPod Touch is laggy. I feel like Apple's done with iPods. That's just my opinion. Although I've heard of rumors that an iPod Touch 7 might be coming out, I am highly doubtful now. We're at the end of 2018, and Apple still hasn't come out with anything in terms of iPods. But to be completely honest, I think Apple is done with iPods. I think they're wanting people to either get an iPhone, an iPad, or a Mac. Which I have no problem with, because the only iPod I have is a really old iPod on iOS 5, which I don't even use that much anymore. And it used to be my brother's iPod. And then I have 2 iPhones, an iPhone 5 and an iPhone 6. But my iPhone 6 is my personal one. The iPhone 5 is a backup phone, and it's already deteriorating because the battery's terrible on it. I was actually going to upgrade to a 7 this year, but due to money, and due to us not having enough money to afford things right now, I can't upgrade this year. I'm just hopeful that by the time iOS 13 is out, I can still use I can still get equipped with the home button that I wanna see, which is the mechanical home button. That's why I decided that the next phone I want is a 7 or an 8. It's because of the mechanical home button. I want some experience with that. the thing I like about the 7 so far is because my brother has an iPhone 7. And he said if he upgrades to an iPhone X, then he'll give me his 7. But we can't upgrade anything right now. So, the thing I like about the 7 is you have, first of all, the mechanical home button, but then I'm just looking at it and being like, oh my gosh, no headphone jack. I mean, honestly, when Apple said that, when iPhone 7 was officially out and I was like 14 then, they said it has no headphone jack. I honestly didn't disapprove of that because Bluetooth technology has been around for a long time, and I thought that by then Apple should have implemented that on their phones because, Bluetooth technology is just a new thing. Like, I love the idea of wireless technology, anything that doesn't require cables, because, my hassle with cables is that they all get tangled. So like wireless AirPods, wireless charging, like I'm in for any of those kinds of things. So when they said iPhone 7 is gonna have no headphone jack, I honestly didn't disagree. When they said the iPhone X was gonna have no home button, I was a little up and down about that. Honestly, I had been upgrading from my 5 to my 6 then, but I was a little kind of off on that, I guess. Partly because I'm just so used to a home button, but I think now that I think about it though, now that I think about it, I feel like it probably could have been I feel like it probably could have been a good idea. I mean, to not have a home button because Apple should kind of start moving on with their technology and have phones eventually. Oh, hi Jackson. Eventually to a phone with literally no ports. Like literally nothing. It's just a flat rectangular metal thing with a screen. And it's literally no ports. And no button at the bottom. I think I heard that was probably Apple's main goal. That's not going to happen for for like 6-7 years, in my opinion. But if Apple starts to move towards that, great. Like we need new technology incorporated into our lives as years go on, right? Because we have new technology going on everywhere else. Apple should kind of get involved in that as well. Yeah, but the iPod is so small. Yeah. I mean, when the iPods were around, actually, the idea I liked behind iPods is that kids who just didn't want phones or thought they were too young for phones and didn't want to carry around a huge tablet could just carry around a tiny iPod around all the time until they were old enough or their parents could afford to get until they were old enough at least to get a new phone. I got my first phone at 13. But kids younger than when I started getting phones now have phones. Like I've heard of 8-year-olds who have phones. But parents who thought that their kids were too young for phones, they could just simply get them an iPod. That can't happen anymore. Because I feel like Apple's just simply done with iPods. Yeah. So I feel like Apple's just simply done with iPods. But I've also heard that iPads are actually getting quite smaller. So, I mean, it could kind of make sense for a kid to be carrying around a small tablet, but I don't know. To be completely honest. Really? The iOS 12.1 on my iPod Touch is Lagland. Maybe it became. Because they channeled their user agreement with Google. That's weird. I have the 16 GB. Next, the iPhone will have no screen. Let's just say that's not actually possible. Jackson. Why? Because you need a screen. I don't know if I should consider this going above and beyond, but that is actually really funny. But to be completely honest, I don't think there's no way it can't have a screen. Bluetooth headphones are much more expensive. That's why it makes me mad. They removed the headphone jack. I mean, I wasn't totally mad about them removing the headphone jack, to be completely honest. Because again, like, I don't want to have to, like, when I get my iPhone 7, I'm gonna be so excited because I don't have to deal with having to untangle cables, untangle earbud cables. I can just simply pull out my AirPods and put those in and listen to my music that way. Yeah, Bluetooth headphones. Yeah, but the thing I like about wireless stuff is that you don't have to deal with cables tangling everywhere, which is kind of a hassle for me. And so I wasn't totally mad when the headphone jack was gone, because Bluetooth technology, it just shows that Bluetooth technology is more enhancing, and I think Apple was trying to get into that. Even though Bluetooth was on, they're just trying to make the headphone jack kind of obsolete a little bit, but I think, they're just trying to make the headphone jack obsolete in a way. But I think it is kind of time for the headphone jack to become obsolete, because Bluetooth is, a lot of people are using Bluetooth now. Bluetooth and wireless charging. I want a iPhone 8, but I have an iPhone SE. My friend has an SE. Next iPhone, you will have to buy a screen dongle to get a screen. Pretty soon we will be seeing the phone with no ports in no Bluetooth. Huh. Okay. Next iPhone, $1,000 just for the box. No iPhone included. I was just joking. Yeah, but I mean, it's fun. It's funny though because iPhone with no screen. That's actually really funny. I feel like that would make for a good prank. How many subscribers do you have to turn on YouTube Super Chat? 1,000. You can buy an iPod 5 for really cheap on like website, but you'll yeah, support for iOS 9 is done, guys. If you have an iOS 9 device, yeah, support for iOS 9 is done. Support for, because apps right now, they require iOS 10 and later. Next year when iOS 13 comes out, it's going to be done for iOS 10. So you'll need iOS 11 later. which means my iPhone 5, which is running iOS 10, that's going to be done next year. But I honestly wanted to kind of get rid of it anyway because the battery is terrible on it. Bluetooth headphones sound really good too, like they're really expensive, but they sound good. Yeah. I have honestly never heard of Bluetooth. Well, I have, but I've never seen any. I've never seen Bluetooth headphones. I've seen AirPods because my brother has like a set of AirPods. But I've never seen Bluetooth headphones. I'm starting to wonder what that's like because I'm gonna have to get rid of my cable headphones as soon as I upgrade to a 7, which probably is gonna be next year. Huh. Then iPhone with no screen. I feel like that would make for a good prank. I feel like that would make for a good prank. Maybe say for April Fool's Day. That would honestly make for a really good prank. Like, what if someone could actually make a commercial, literally about an iPhone with no screen? Like, that would be such a good prank, in my opinion. I have a pair of Bluetooth. Yeah, I've honestly never seen Bluetooth headphones. I've seen AirPods though, because my brother, again, like they're basically the AirPods. I didn't know this, but they're basically those Apple earphones that you get, except they have no cable, and they come in a small rectangular container. My brother, he brought it once. I have a 5 on iOS 9.3.5 jailbroken. I use AppCake to get any app just on it. Do you have an iPod Touch 5? I remember my brother coming into the room with a set of earpods, and he said, he basically told me to open it, pull them out, and he's like, try them on. So I did, and I'm like, why am I trying this? Right? And then I asked him just that, and he's like, just try it on, and I'm just like, why? I honestly still don't know. I honestly still don't understand why he would want me to try on the AirPods. But that's why I was really excited about upgrading, although I didn't really want to upgrade because my 6's battery was really good, and it was still supporting updates. But honestly, now that I think of it, when my brother said he'll give me a 7, I was just literally excited to upgrade, but then I realized, he's like, we're not upgrading this year because the money, we didn't have enough money to support everything. So, I'm probably getting a phone next year. I see AirPods all the time now in restaurants and stores and stuff. Yeah. Honestly, I want a 7 right now. But because my brother can't afford a new phone, I can't have it. We have 3 likes. Yeah. So, what do you guys think? As in, like, what are some, I mean, I know we've had a few other features mentioned on this chat. What do you guys think about some new iOS sound schemes on iOS 13? Because right now we're at the last update of the second half of iOS. The first half with the first little branch was iOS 1 to 6. The second era of iOS is iOS 7 to 12. Third era begins next year. What do you guys think of new sound schemes? I think Apple should have new sound schemes for iOS 13. The charge tone that we have right now has been around since iOS 7, and I think Apple should start changing that. I'm not sure about lock sound yet. Maybe a new lock sound? Or a selection of lock sounds? Or you could cover the screen. Why would any restaurant? They're AirPods. Or you could cover the screen with. So, what do you guys think of new sound schemes? I actually kind of like the bedtime feature that they incorporated in iOS 10. Apple should add a sound store where you can get new sounds if you so it's not difficult. You're talking about like new sounds for certain stuff. Is that what you mean? Yeah, you know what? Maybe a sound store would be nice. So you're not necessarily talking about like a tone store, but like a sound store for different sound schemes, yeah? That could be a nice one. It's just that I feel like it's time, now that iOS 13 is out, I feel like it's time for Apple to start updating their sound scheme. Yeah, a sound store could be nice, actually. I just don't know how that's gonna work, though. I feel like it's time for Apple to update their sound scheme. Especially their charge tone now. It's time for the charge tone to be updated. Next thing you know, Apple remakes headphones because they bought what? Excuse me. Alright, so, we kind of got off topic during this presentation, but I'm gonna end it right here. If you guys haven't checked out my other live presentations on iOS and different iOS stuff, go check them out. My very first one is the Apple intentionally killing the iPhone 4S one, and then I did two weirdest iOS devices presentations, and then the fourth one I did was is iOS 12 gonna be your iPhone 5S's nightmare? So this one actually would be number 5. Which is how if Apple should include iPhone 10 gestures on older iPhones for iOS 13. I'll try and update the title on this one because this isn't clear. Well, it probably is, but not as clear as I want it to be. So anyways, guys, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in my next one. Peace.